Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are in the zone, the BIZ Info Zone, and you're at the BIZ Info Zone show. Today, we're already in the month of March 3rd, 2016. But you know what? There's some really good energy around those numbers. 3316. And I love that because all of those numbers represent movement. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Not getting stuck where you think you are, but really seeing beyond even that place of movement and stepping into what's next for you. So again, welcome to the zone. This is where the savvy social entrepreneur gets to plan express their purpose, plan your next moves, implement with inspired action, and move your business into more profits and do more good in the world. Today, I am so excited because we have my friend visiting us from all the way across the Atlantic Ocean, Miss KEMI EGAN. And, you know, the question came up about leadership when we were talking. And because I'm such a leadership focused person and, you know, be the CEO of your business, step into your leadership role, architect of the future and guardian of the mood. You are a leader. The question came up, are leaders born or are they made? And I want to tell you that my perception is KEMI EGAN is a leader who was born to lead. Yet she had to walk her journey in order to get to the place where not only did she believe it, but she started doing it. And she is an entrepreneur, a real estate investor, coach, founder of the Freedom Academies, author of The Power of Real Estate Investing, 7 Steps to Make Money and Create a Lifetime of Wealth. I love that. And host of Turbocharge Your Success podcast show. We're going to talk about what makes a leader and how to turbocharge the strength of your leadership for success. You know, there are a lot of us who know that we were born for this leadership work that we do. It's sometimes there are others who actually step on that path of life and learn the lessons, and they wake up and say, I want to be this leader. And then there are others who say they came about it a little differently still. Today, KEMI is going to tell us about her journey and some of the strategies that she has that can help you to be more successful in opening up to your leadership opportunities and moving forward in your role as a leader. So I want to say welcome, KEMI. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's awesome to be with you as always. I love our chats. We have so much fun.
We do. And I mentioned you have got this incredible story. And, you know, with my background in commercial real estate, I could really resonate with having kind of walked that path. And to the extent that it has brought you into a place now where you're doing such tremendous work, helping professionals and entrepreneurs to stand more firmly in their journey towards greater wealth. Tell us a little bit about that journey that you had. How did you get to the place where you're just so passionate about doing what you're doing right now?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I grew up pretty broke. We didn't have a lot of money. It was a single parent family. And I did the traditional things. I went to uni or college. You know, I did my degree. I got my master's degree. I got some more qualifications, some more certificates to stick on the wall. Because that's what you're told to do, isn't it? You know, keep getting some more qualifications. Let someone else tell you you're good enough until one day, eventually, you'll be there. But I did what I was told. I'm a very kind of straightforward person. You tell me this is the way to success, I'll do it. And I opened a physical therapy business. So we had a clinic. I did, again, what you do traditionally. Take out a load of startup loans. You take up a load of directors' guarantees, a load of personal guarantees. You rack up credit cards because that's the way you're told you have to start a business. And it was great, to be honest. It went fine. We had thousands of really happy clients. Business was flowing, but I hadn't learned to be a leader, so I didn't take the steps you you take to protect your business and to protect your family. And unfortunately, a small matter of, a worldwide economic recession came along. And we had about 80 to 90% of our clients came through insurance companies. So if you had a car accident, if you had an accident at work, you were shipped to us to get you better, which was all well and good when things were fine. But when the recession happened, those companies went bust. And with it, they paid us 90 to 180 days in arrears. So we had done 3 to 6 months work, hadn't been paid for it. They went under and took with it our entire client base and all of the money that we were due. So I did everything I could to try and stay afloat. And the ironic thing that I'll never quite understand is that it costs money to go bankrupt. You literally have to pay to go bankrupt. It just seems to make no sense to me. But I was trying to do everything I could. So I was selling clothes, shoes, handbags, rugs. I sold my car, absolutely everything to keep trying to pay these bills. But it wasn't enough. There was just not enough meat on the table to go round. So I eventually had to give up my home and I moved into my office. I moved into about a 60 square foot office in the back of the clinic, had no windows, sleeping on the blow up bed that I had, and had kind of one bag of clothes left. I had to cook whatever could be done in a microwave, I had no cooking facilities, and then had to go across the road to shower at the local community centre and try and kind of sneak in or out, because no one really wants their physical therapist to be living in a hole in the back of the office, right? So that's how I ended up homeless, and it was pretty rough. I can speak about it quite flippantly now and casually, but that isn't to diminish how painful it was. And having come from, nothing, I thought I'd made it when I opened that business, and I thought I could finally do everything I wanted to look after my family and those things. So when that was taken away from me, it was heartbreaking. And I spent a good 3 or 4 months drinking too much wine, eating too much chocolate, just trying to make myself feel a bit better somehow. And then one day it kind of occurred to me that I've been telling myself these stories, that it was a recession, so no one's making money, and people like me don't get successful. I was clearly getting ahead of myself, and it was never going to go anywhere, so at least I got put out of my misery quite early. And all of these messages were going around my brain until it occurred to me one day that clearly some people somewhere are making money right now. Some people somewhere are building wealth. So, get off your backside, go out there and find out what they know that you don't. And that's when my journey into real estate and changing my life began.
Oh, what a story. What a great story. It's very inspiring because there's so many of us who, same thing, listening to the advice of others. We've been so conditioned that everybody else has the answers outside of ourselves, yet we've gone through all of these learning experiences and know ourselves enough that, we end up saying, man, I wish I could have come to that answer, whatever year prior to now. And but the truth of it is, and tell me your philosophy about this, I believe that everything in our lives happen for a reason. Nothing is actually left to chance. Every experience that we've had actually contributes to the value of our lives and where we are at any given point in time and where we look to go forward. What's your take on, this concept of nothing just happens, everything happens for a reason?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think primarily I agree with it. I think that we're meant to be in certain places at certain times. I think we're meant to have certain experiences. There are some people that have, Oprah Winfrey, she's an overused example, but a fantastic example. Someone that went through, she went to hell and back to be in a position to help and share now with billions of people. So I think that some people are designed to go through this because someone somewhere knows that they're capable of it. They know they can do this and they can come out the other end stronger and better. I equally think we could save ourselves a lot of pain and a lot of time if we did what you said and just listened to ourselves. You are enough. You're already enough. You have the answers. So I think you'll probably still go through the journey, but it might be a little bit smoother if we stop listening to everyone around us who we have decided know the answers better than we do.
It's funny. I actually was having the conversation with a friend of mine just the other day about, everything that we are seeking outside of us, the answers are within us. And while I wholeheartedly agree with that, it's like it means nothing if there's no way for you to get them out of you.
Yeah.
And so, knowing the value of asking the right questions, and it sounds like you were in a space of asking yourself some of the right questions, that those answers showed up that were inside of you. Tell us a little bit about, where that space was, and even, not just from the shift of, being, sleeping in your office to the next stage, but even subsequent to that. What are some of the questions that you've asked yourself that have kept you moving forward?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's those questions, isn't it? Because I remember being at school and teachers going, "You know that," and I'm like, "I don't. If I did, I wouldn't be asking you." And sometimes you need someone to help you elicit that, which is why I'm so pro masterminds and mentorships, and even just great friends and chatting, because you can say, "Look, I am struggling," and they'll ask a question, and you're like, "Okay, I knew that, but thank you. I wouldn't have got there otherwise." But yeah, so as for the journey, at the beginning, it was the question was really simple. It was how can I make money? I need money now. I need cash flow now. What do I have to do? And that the answer became real estate. I found out that 90% of people, give or take, either made or kept their wealth in real estate. So that's the road to do that, which was fine. Then the next question was, obviously, I don't have any money to buy this. No bank in their right mind is going to give me any credit. So I need to find JV partners. I need to find joint venture partners that either have the money, have the experience, ideally have both. They're going to work with me to take my business forward. And instantly I did what we all do, and especially women do. Why would anyone want to work with me? No one's going to want to work with me. Everyone could be somewhere else. Everyone could do something better. So the question I then had to ask myself was, who do I have to become to make these people want to work with me? And that was a really powerful question, because it asked me to be very honest with myself, which is always a little bit scary, I find. And I had to then go out and implement it. So it stopped being about reading books for reading's sake, and reading them or taking on board information and learning so that I could become a bigger and better person. And my third big question at that stage was, what am I doing every day to make myself a little bit better? And I use the word better cautiously, because we're already all amazing. But what am I doing to take myself that bit further? How can I be the best version of myself today? And sometimes it is as simple as not sending that cranky email. The one that you write when you're really annoyed and you don't hit send. It's not sending that email. Sometimes it's training someone instead of chastising them. And these are all little bits of growth that you go through, so that at the end of the day you can say, you know what, yeah, I've ended this day a little bit further along my journey than I started it.
Oh, that's great. That is so great. It truly is in how we walk this journey. And I love I'm not good enough. Nobody's going to want to talk to me. And there are a series of questions to ask to get you beyond that space and step into well, maybe there is. If there's one, then that's who I want to show up in front of me. But what really kind of hooked you into real estate? I mean, real estate is a very left brain, decision. I see, the numbers, talk a great story, all of this, but suppose I'm the creative and I just, I convinced myself, okay, I can't see the correlation of creativity and something as solid as real estate. I know that in the Academy, Freedom Academy, you probably get all types of people that you're bringing through this process. What would you tell somebody who says, I believe you, that real estate can, be a source of wealth creation? I'm just, I don't know. I'm the creative, and, not to put down creative people. Don't get me wrong. I'm I'm totally not doing that. I'm so sometimes surprised at the balance within me. I can go on the right side for a long time, and I can go on the left side and draw myself back. And, I personally spend a lot of time in the middle, and I'm grateful for that. It took a lot for me to get to that place. But, the person who really understands that they're this right brain creative, how does real estate work for them?
Yeah, that's so true, and you're so right. And I'm with you. So I'm okay. I'm staying in the middle, but I do have my sways quite dramatically. So the first thing I say to them is, look, I don't like real estate, if I'm entirely honest. Bricks and mortar and roofs and plumbing, they don't interest me. I don't care. But what I do love is building a business. That brings out the creator in me. I love, as this is gonna sound nerdy and you can all judge me for it, and that's okay, but I love building the systems. I love looking at a problem and saying, right, well, if this happens, how do I resolve that? How can I get that sorted without it including me, ideally? I love looking at projects and saying, how do we maximize the cash from this? How do we still provide great value? So I get to be creative in those ways. The actual looking at the buildings, I don't care either. And you build your business in a way, if you do it the right way, I believe, in that it doesn't require you to be there looking at cold properties, traipsing up and down the streets and doing viewings with tenants. Because no one gets into real estate to give themselves another job. They do it to give themselves passive income and build wealth. So that's the first huge thing. And the second thing is, make your money in real estate, because in all honesty, if you follow the system, it's not rocket science. And then do what you love. Spend your time doing something else. If what floats your boat is painting, drawing, building things, go and do that. But have your money coming in every month as real estate, as tenants paying your bills, building your wealth, and spending the rest of the time doing what you want. Don't write it off because you want to do something else.
Great answer. And I would say that goes for left brain people too.
Yeah.
That is just great wisdom right there. And, when we talk about leadership and leadership in this space of wealth building, one of the things for the BIZ Info Zone social entrepreneurs is really seeing your purpose, knowing your purpose, being able to express your purpose and plan those next moves, getting into the strategy so that you have this executable plan. And, tell us a little bit about the value of the systems that you teach and create, and how to, left brain and right brain really find the power in those systems.
Yeah, and I credit everything I do down to these systems, because like you say, you've got a left brain and a right brain, and you've got an emotional side and a strategic side, and depending on what day you've got, one of those is going to be firing. So what you have to do in real estate and in all business, as you know, is take your emotion out of it. You want a decision to be made based on algorithms and on systems that have been set up on a day way better than today. Because today, if a roof's caved in, if a tenant's bugged you, if your other half has annoyed you, something else has happened, and then you get that email coming in, you're not going to make the best decision. You're already feeling overwhelmed. But if you've got a tick box exercise where you say, A, B, C, D, E, this happens, fine, there's your answer. I don't want to think about it, and I don't want to talk about it. That takes all of that emotion out of it and just lets you move on to the next task. And equally, it helps you get really predictable, profitable results. If you say, I buy using this system, these are the only parameters that I will buy under, and nothing outside of that, then you know what's going to happen when you spend the same amount of money doing a rehabilitation and you put it back on the market if you're doing a flip, or you put it out to tenant. You know the results you're going to get, which makes it really simple to go to investors and say, hey, look, come see what we're doing, come invest in it. I've done it 10 times before, these are the results, and answer all of their questions. Because if you go from doing a high-rise one day to a multi-family the next day to a single family the next day, unless you've been doing this for a long, long time, it's tough to systemize that, it's tough to structure, and it's tough to be an expert in any of it. Whereas if you can say, this is what I do, this is what I'm great at, invest in me if this is what you want, people are going to buy into you really quickly, and you'll be the known expert in that area before you blink.
I love it. I love it. Leads to something that I teach and state very often is, you know, I grew up having the understanding that being a jack of all trades was really cool. It was the thing that you wanted to be. You know, MacGyver was the man. And you probably don't even remember MacGyver, but my nephew at one point even called me Mrs. MacGyver because of just some of the, but that is part of talk about the journey. What told me that my creative side was so alive. And yet when it came down to how does this creative side really work, you have to go to the left brain and say, if this, then that, if this, then that. And when you have the systems and you can do something more than a few times and you get it where it's moving like a well-oiled machine, then I call that really focusing on the one thing.
Yeah.
You're looking at the one thing, you're improving on the one thing, you're tightening up those systems and really providing yourself the opportunity for those 10,000 hours that Malcolm Gladwell talks about to be racked up, and building your confidence. Because a lot of times that's what really gets us. We don't stick with something long enough to build that time investment, and you know, we're looking at answers over here, answers over there, when you know, on and I don't like to call it this, but the straight and narrow. You know, when you get on the straight and narrow, it sounds like it's restrictive, but oh my God, is it powerful. And it actually opens up so much. Well, so give us some examples of some others that have looked at real estate as an investment opportunity that maybe even started out, I'll try this, but really shifted some things, not just because of the results that they got in the real estate piece, but in themselves as well.
Absolutely. And just to go to your point as well on confidence, there's something I use, and I imagine it like a figure of 8. And I call it the confidence competence cycle. So you have confidence at the top and competence at the bottom. And it's not until you get some confidence that you feel you're competent. But unless you're competent, you don't feel confident. So you have to commit the time to, like you say, to get good at something, to finally go, oh, okay, I'm good at this, I'm okay with this, we can roll on. But as you say, we scatter around, we chase the next shiny penny, or we try and do everything because, you know, you've got to be that jack of all trades, and we constantly never quite feel enough. So yeah, I'm a huge believer in that. But so yeah, so to answer your question, most recently an example comes to mind is a lady called Joy who had been doing flips on the side for, I think it's about 7 to 10 years. Her and her husband had been doing some flips, and they'd maybe done one a year, and they were making maybe 5 to 10 grand on it, which seems very nice, and yes, that's a nice amount of money. Her problem was that she hated it, didn't enjoy it in the slightest. Her and her husband were then having disagreements because he's like, you know what, this is a good lump of money, stop moaning, basically. And, you know, a lot of people don't have the opportunity to do this. She's saying, yeah, but we're not spending any time together now. What we're spending time on is these stupid houses that I don't like anyway. So they came to me and just said, look, Kemi, what do you think I should do? What do you think we should do? We're having this argument. It's affecting our marriage. Yes, the extra money is enormously valuable and we're grateful for it. But, you know, this is causing problems. So I sat down and had a chat with them about what it was they actually wanted. And they had some really clear, specific goals. They had some clear goals about their retirement. They had some clear goals about their lifestyle. And they had some clear goals about charity and philanthropy. But flipping wasn't meeting any of those goals. They just found something, someone had told them to do it, and off they went. So what I've helped them do over the last probably 9-10 months or so now is refine their goals. So first of all, they're aligned, because they're both working to something separate. So he, Mr. X, was working for now. He wanted to have nicer holidays and be able to afford his car. She was working for their retirement. She had a longer view of what they wanted, which meant that when they were flipping a house and he was then going off to buy a car, she's like, no, this isn't why I'm spending my weekends in this house. So we firstly aligned their goals. I worked with them to make sure that they were aiming for the same thing. And all that really took was a shift in thinking. It's, okay, fine, we want some money for now, absolutely, but we want some long-term cash too. So let's separate these pots, but that's what we're working to. The next thing I asked Joy was, what is it you enjoy? Do you enjoy real estate at all? What part of this do you find fun? And it turned out that she was into figures. She really liked numbers. She really liked analysing things, breaking them down, and figuring out how they worked and how they fitted together. Whereas he really enjoyed standing over the site, looking at what was happening and seeing the finished product. I asked them both if they actually enjoyed the process of selling. You know, is that something you enjoy? And the answer was a resolute no. So we shifted their strategy to buying and holding, because it allowed her to run the figures intensely, to have really repeatable and strategic buying decisions. It allowed him to come in and add value and to transform a place that is previously pretty dilapidated into a really nice home now, and it allowed them to rent it out. So in the short term, they've got increased monthly income coming in to meet his short-term goals of new cars. They've also got an asset that is slowly increasing in value, and when they come to retire, they can sell to fund a new retirement. And they found a way to do it, so they're both getting their needs met. She's getting to be nerdy and geeky and having fun with spreadsheets, and he's getting to be manly and deal with walls and plumbing and all of that, and see a really nice finished product. So they've allowed their creative sides and the financial sides to come together to create something really special. But again, they only did that by stop listening to what people were telling them they should do and actually saying, what part of this is right for me? Like you said, you know, I get it, I'm in, I'm real estate, I'm all in, but this isn't working for me as it is. So we just restructured that, helped it fit their life, which it should do. It's not meant to take over your life. And now they're out there doing some really amazing, amazing things. They're having a great time now.
I love that story. What a great story to see how something like this, building wealth in such a tangible way, really can allow some shifts to occur in you. And you know, one of the things that I know in business, in building business, a lot of people don't do is take the time to really understand what their vision of the future is. So take a few minutes and tell us the value of the vision and some of the things that you use. I mean, I love the process that you took this couple through. Do you have any systems for visioning?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing is to figure out where you are now. What financial position are you in? What emotional position are you in? What time position are you in? Because if I said to you, right, I want you to direct me from the town hall, the first thing you would say is, where, oh, you want me to direct me to the town hall? You'd be like, where are you? I'd be like, well, I'm not really comfortable talking about that. It's a bit painful. It's a bit emotional. I come with some baggage, so I'm not going to tell you where I am. Well, you'd be like, well, I can't tell you how to get there if I don't know where you're starting from. And this is what we all do naturally. We don't really like to talk about things that are uncomfortable, so we'll avoid those subjects, but try and aim for some glamorous, amazing future. Sadly, it doesn't quite work in that way, at least not as effectively. So the first thing we do is figure out where you are now. What financial resources do you have? What debts do you have? What credit do you have? What do you have coming in? What's going out? And also, where are you at in a time space? Realistically, do you have 5 hours a week? Do you have 20 hours? It's pointless employing a strategy that requires a bit more if that's just not there. This isn't to make your life more difficult, it's to make it better. So we look at what resources you have to employ at the moment. And then it's right, where do you want to go? Let's be audacious and ambitious and go crazy, because all of those goals are possible. You just have to know what they are. So where do you want to be in 6 months? Where do you want to be in 12 months? Where do you want to be in 5 years? When do you want to quit your job? Well, actually, do you love your job? You want to keep that going? You want to sit on the side getting rich so you don't need it. So we look at those two things first of all, and that's called the wealth map. Where are you now? Where are you going? The third thing we then look at is, how are we going to get there? So some people, like we said, innately love flipping. They just do. It's in their blood. Completely fine. I personally approach flipping as a primary strategy with caution because it relies a lot on what's going on in economic cycles at the time. You need the economy generally to be pretty good for flipping houses to be such a repeatable and systemizable business. Whereas buying to hold is something that happens in any market. So we'll figure out the best fit for you. And I use something called generally a 70-30 rule. So you spend 70% of your time doing one thing and 30 doing another thing. So there'll be two real estate strategies. What I then look at is helping you systemize that 70%. So that's your big thing. Maybe it's buying and holding. So I'm going to help you systemize that. We are going to get teams in, people in, so you're not answering the phone from renters, you're not dealing with the plumber, none of that grotty stuff. When that's systemized and set up, that stays ticking along. You keep acquiring properties if that's what you want. You keep getting more tenants, but it doesn't require much of your input. That 30 then becomes your 70. So let's say on the side you do enjoy flipping. Well, let's spend some more time doing that then for now. And gradually we'll build up systems around that. So that happens without your input. And then another 70 and another 30 comes in. So you can end up with a really multi-dimensional business, multiple streams of income so that you're not vulnerable to changes, and still with the ability to retain freedom of location, which for me is everything.
Wow, I love that. I love that. And in the process, you actually are finding that you are building leaders. You're helping to create leaders. And when we started out, we were talking about, are leaders born or are they taught? Tell us your philosophy on that aspect of leadership.
I think we all have a leader within us. But I think it takes a real amount of courage to allow that leader out and to step forward and be heard and be seen. And again, I was chatting to a friend, I think it was this morning, who was telling me that they had a lot to share. They knew they wanted to share it, but they were terrified of then being heard and being seen and being in the limelight. So we tried to talk a lot around, it's a real privilege to be able to change lives. It's a real privilege to know things that can help people. And in real estate, it's a real privilege to be able to create great quality homes that families can live in. We all know there are slum landlords out there doing a terrible job. So if you can do one better and hopefully put them out of business, that's a real privilege. But it does take courage to stand forward and to allow that. And the reality is you're going to get knocked because for two reasons, I personally believe. First is those around you are going to become nervous because you use each other as a measuring pole. You're a ruler for everyone else. So as soon as you start stepping up and raising your game, they're looking up at you thinking, unless I can knock her back down, I've got to raise my game because, this is too low. So they're going to knock you because it makes it easier for them. The second thing that happens is, my favourite phrase is, first they will laugh, then they'll copy. So people can look at you and be like, girl, you're mental. No, it's never going to work. What are you talking about? You've lost your mind. And then you watch 18 months, 2 years later, when it's going well, they're like, can you just tell me about that again? And you'll see them all trotting along like you're the Pied Piper, following exactly what you said 2 years ago. So you have to have resilience, and you've got to have the strength of mind and the people around you to get you through that first phase. Because when you're out the other side, when momentum's on your side, nothing can stop you. But you have to be really cautious in that time about protecting your dream and protecting your goals and not letting any of those bloodsuckers in to ruin it for you.
I love that. Keep the door closed to the bloodsuckers.
Yes.
Yes, and sometimes they're in the door before you know that they're really bloodsuckers. So it's truly about discernment too, knowing, what it is that you're looking at and how to handle it. And, we often find ourselves in the space of, oh my God, this is in front of me now, whether it's opportunity or this bloodsucker. And it's like, okay, the challenge. How do I deal with this challenge? And, forward movement means that you do something with the challenges. So talk to us a little bit about how you maneuver past, go over, under, around, through the challenges to do it and I say graceful for the women. I say powerful for us all, because my perception of our personal power is the heart that we exude into what it is that we do. And I think that everyone in our audience today, we're here with KEMI EGAN, the CEO of Freedom Academies, a self-made millionaire, and she's telling us about leadership. And I think it's very clear, we can clearly see the heart of desire, the heart of commitment, and the heart of just wanting to share what it is that she's doing and helping others to do better in their lives. And so speak to us about this space of moving through the challenge.
Yeah, I think the first thing is to just acknowledge that they're going to be there, right? We'd all love for it not to happen. And if you listen to some people out there, they're going to tell you that everything will get out of your way and it'll be perfect. And I think it's unfair, because then when challenges happen, you're like, man, am I the only one here? You're not. We're all in it with you. But the real thing, you use the word powerful, and that's a perfect example. So I do everything with integrity and authenticity, which means that if a challenge comes up, or if someone is challenging me, or something's happening that I'm not comfortable with, I can hand on heart go into my power and say, I am not comfortable with this, and I'm going to remove myself, or, actually we're not going to work together, or whatever that challenge might be. And I can do that comfortably because I know I'm acting with integrity and authenticity. So it's true to me. So if it doesn't feel right, I'm just not engaging it, because to engage with something that doesn't feel good means I'm actually saying I'm going to be someone else for this. And you can't do that. But the big thing that will get you through, over, under, whatever it takes, is to have a goal that's big enough. And we're taught not to do that, aren't we? You have SMART goals, be realistic, set very sensible goals, perfect for day-to-day challenges, for day-to-day life. But for the thing that is going to get you through those big, ugly days, you need a monstrosity of a goal that you just think, you know what, it is worth treading over hot coals to get this. I'm going to do it. If your big goal is something that's smart and it's very sensible, then your answer is, nah, I'm just going to sit on the sofa today. Thanks very much. I can live without that. So set a massive goal. Set something that you believe in and that lights your fire, and nothing is worth failing at. And that would be the thing that gets you moving forward. And then when you're going, act with integrity, act with authenticity, and anyone that doesn't fit in that is more than welcome to leave.
Beautiful, wonderful wisdom there. And I just want to acknowledge some of the people in the audience with us today, and William Rock, and Gary Whalen, and William has said, amazing discussion. And he said his dad enjoys flipping. In fact, he purchased a home at an auction back when he was 18 for $5, built it up, and it was appraised at $30,000. And, there are a lot of us who are children of people who have done that, yet we rent, or we don't necessarily buy into the strategy of building wealth through real estate, even though we've seen family members and others do that. And, what is probably the biggest reason that people are telling themselves that real estate, wealth building through real estate, is not something that makes sense for them, they want to do?
That's a great question, William. Congratulations. That's an amazing result. Good man. So the reasons they tell you, we are so media affected. It's like an illness, and we have to remember that something like 90% of the world's media is owned by 9 people. So there's about 9 people in the world that will tell you what to think, how to believe, and how to act on any given day, which is terrifying. So at the moment, in a market that in most places is quite up, we're in a bouncy part of the economic cycle at the moment. So for those that maybe aren't quite so familiar, the economy is cyclical. We have ups, we have downs, we have what people call booms and busts. I like to call corrections. And it just happens. It's happened since the beginning of history, and it will continue to happen. But each time it happens, it's like, shocker, this has happened. When in reality, you can probably see it coming. So at the moment, I speak to a lot of people and they're saying, I can't get into the market's too high, it doesn't make sense, or I can't get funding for it because it's too expensive. Now, there are two valid points. The market is quite high, which means that you have to buy very strategically. It means having your algorithm that we talked about earlier is so important, because you don't get caught up in that. You don't get caught up in the frenzy that's going on and the infallibility that seems to come over everyone at this sort of time. Equally, when the market starts to dip and it starts to correct, and everyone is flooding out of real estate telling you you've lost your mind and get out of it while you can still breathe, you don't buy into that either, because you look at your algorithms. Is the property still returning you what you want it to? Is it still yielding what you want it to? Is it still in demand? Are there still tenants in the area? And all of these things help you to make really smart decisions the whole way and not be affected by those 9 guys in the media. And it's for those reasons I am cautious about flipping. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I certainly would never have primary cause of my wealth or my income through flipping. Because we saw in 08, didn't we? Lehman Brothers went under, a whole heap of banks went under, and overnight it was game over. Now, there was a whole lot of people that knew that was coming. They didn't feel the need to share it with us. So I would never have, like I said, my whole wealth there. That's not to say I don't do it, but be cautious, have your parameters. I want you to weigh up that if the market turns tomorrow and you can't shift that, is it still going to pay you, or are you going to pay it? So have a couple of exits in mind. If your first one is flipping it, great, that's fine. But if you can't flip it, will it rent? And will it rent for enough to at least cover the mortgages and the bills? Otherwise, you're in trouble. And if it doesn't, don't buy it. You need at least 2 exits for everything.
I love that, because coming from my perspective in real estate, a lot of what we did from a lending and construction perspective was in the projections. What is the vision that you can project for this property? And you just said that, if you don't flip it and you are set to hold it, can you get the rent that will cover the mortgage and the expenses for you as an owner, so that you don't have to come out of pocket? And there's another piece to all of that, and I'd like you to speak to this, because on a personal front, it's called savings. On the real estate front, it's called reserves. And, I look at the strategies being very similar as you're building wealth. However you're building wealth, you still need to, save some things, and for savings on the personal side, I believe you need that, 2 to 3 months, 6 months preferably, of living expenses and savings. But then you need your long-term savings. And so talk to us about how you teach that as far as building wealth through real estate and the strategy of saving in order to accommodate future.
Absolutely, and I'm with you. Alarmingly, I think the stat is something like most people, if they lost their job tomorrow, could survive for 4 or 5 weeks, which is just terrifying. It's terrifying to have your future so dependent on someone else deciding whether or not you're employed. So I talk a lot about building financial walls around you. And that means that if you lose your job, so your outer wall would be your earned income, perhaps your job. If you lose your job, your outside wall is gone. But that's okay, because you've still got walls 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they will be your short-term savings pot, the one you use to get you through those few months while you're looking for another job or while you're moving professions. You've got your long-term pot, which in an ideal world, you'll never have to touch. That's for when you haven't been able to secure another job, perhaps, and so you need to use that. Alongside the long-term pot is where I have real estate. So that's your money coming in every month that you're not earning. So it's not the flipping type of income, it's the income from tenants. And that means that each month that's coming in and you don't have to do too much for it. You'll manage your team and you'll check that everything's fine, but that's coming in. If the property is empty, you will have a reserve or a financial wall that can cover the mortgage for that time. So we talk about having layer upon layer upon layer of financial walls around you so that nothing can get to you or your family. That's the hub of this castle, if you like, and there's all of these layers of security there to keep everything away from you. In the short term, that can be quite complicated because if you're starting with not a lot, you're like, okay, I've got a couple of $1,000s. Do I invest it or do I save it? I will generally talk about using it for education first of all. So maybe saving half and educating yourself with the other half, because that education is going to allow you to go off and find joint venture partners that will pay for the rest of it. It's going to allow you to go off and find experienced people that can help you be successful and do all of these aspects. So if you have a small pot of money, compound that with education. Make the value of that much, much greater. Go out there and find other people to fill your gaps while still retaining a pot of savings.
Great strategy. I'm so happy to hear that, because a lot of times, it's just not the conversation that we find ourselves in. And I did an interview earlier today about, well, it was on the topic of money and wealth building, and it moved into the space of giving this information. And I said, when I think about the things that people say are common sense, yeah, for some, but I would venture to say that for most of us, because of what we've learned over the years growing up in our communities, in our schools, and family teaches us a lot. It takes those things, these things that we're talking about outside of the realm of common sense. And so you do want to connect into the communities that allow you the opportunity to connect with the people who are giving this kind of information, like KEMI, and what you can find in the Freedom Academies. So can you tell us a little bit about the Freedom Academy, the shows that you do, and where you are that others might be able to connect with you?
Yeah, so, and again, I'm just going to quick anecdote about that common sense thing. And I hate that phrase because it's only common if you know it, isn't it? It's like you watch Catchphrase and you're like, I knew that question. How did you not know it? Well, unless you know, you don't know. There's a great story about a young girl who was cooking a roast dinner one day. So she's cooking like a joint of meat for her family. She chopped off both ends, put it in the oven and threw the ends in the bin. And her friends are like, what are you doing? You're just throwing away good meat for no reason. She was like, I'm not really sure, actually. That's what my mum did. Went to her mum, was like, why do we do this? Her mum was like, I have no idea, actually. Let me ask my mum. And it had to go back a few generations to find out that something like 80 or 90 years ago, the ovens were too small to fit the joints of meat. So they had to cut off the ends to fit it in, and they threw the rest away or made a stock or a stew out of it. But 90 years later, she's still making decisions based on that. That doesn't mean anything now. The ovens are bigger, it fits. You're just doing what you do because that's all you know. So Freedom Academies was funded because of that, because you don't know what you don't know. I didn't grow up talking about money. We didn't grow up with it really being a thing. You didn't strive to achieve wealth. I think you're probably like I am. People that had money were deemed as bad or show-offs or greedy, or they must have done something bad to get wealthy, and they definitely are doing it to keep it. And all of these conversations happen around money. What we don't say is actually it's an inanimate object. Money is just cash. It's just a thing. You can do amazing things with it, or you can do terrible things with it. And that was a whole part of my journey. And there were things as well that I had no idea. Things like credit scores. I had no idea how to improve. I didn't really know what they were. And I certainly didn't know how they affected my life day to day. I didn't know what the power or the damage a credit card can do. It can be really great for you. It can be really terrible for you. I didn't know that there were people around with money that could build my real estate portfolio for me. I didn't know any of these things. And as I went through, I just remember thinking time and time again, like, how do I know? How does everyone in the world not know this? And why is no one shouting about it from the rooftops? Because it's so important. And as I was learning and I was on my journey, I realised that no one looks like me, no one sounded like me, no one came from a background like I did. So I was looking at all these people thinking, I'm not too sure if I trust you, if that's okay. You're a shiny guy in a suit. I'm just not that comfortable. And one of my friends, who's one of my best friends, and your friends can be relied on for telling you the truth, basically said to me at a certain point of success, look, you really need to stop moaning about this or do it yourself. Be the person that others can look to and say, you know what, she's like me, or I get where she's coming from. So I founded this so that you could all come and learn from me, learn from my mistakes, learn from the things I've done well, and the things I do now every day. This is stuff I'm doing every day. I'm not just talking about something I did 10 years ago. And you can know that if it's possible to mess it up, I have done it. If it's possible to get something wrong, I have got it wrong. But I'm still here. So let's be in this together. Let's get through to the end and get you living the life you deserve.
And especially as it relates to women, you know, women typically have been taught, you know, everybody else before me, you know, from the dinner table to going to sleep at night, first one up in the morning because there's so much to do while the house is still quiet. And then, you know, even if you're not a mom, you're still indoctrinated into that thinking because your mom was a mom. And, you know, as we are learning to trust, and I love this, that's probably been the biggest thing on my journey forward. And not just trusting myself, but trusting source, trusting God for what I know I've seen happen in my past. I've seen some of the miracles. You know, you talk about some of the, you know, I fell on my face, busted my nose, got a black eye and a busted lip, you know, yet I was able to do a Les Brown rollover and look up, put a hand up, and I could get up and learn from what occurred. And for most women, we are so apprehensive about going into spaces like real estate, where people call them high risk, high reward, but high risk opportunities. How do you talk to the woman that says, I think I want to try this, but I don't know if I trust myself. I don't know if I trust you. I don't know if I trust the system. I've got a certain strategy, but I'd love to hear, for our audience, to hear what you would say, do, who you would be in that instance.
Yeah, so the first thing is, you know what, don't trust me. Take what I'm saying, weigh it up against what you see, weigh it up against what your soul says to you, and make a decision, because we said before, you're enough. You know what's right for you. You've got it. So if you don't trust me, that's completely fine. Find a leader, find a mentor, find someone that can help you do something that does resonate with you, but that doesn't have to be me. Secondly, high risk, high reward. I think real estate is one of the lowest risk wealth building strategies there is. We all need homes. Land is a finite resource. We're not building anymore. So I think you can be really risky, and there are a lot of people sharing strategies that are pretty damn risky. But you also don't have to be. You can be incredibly cautious. You can have a buying criteria that means you're cautious. You can build into your figures as much room or as little room as you like, so it can fit your nature entirely. And for that reason, I mean, it's statistically proven that women go bankrupt less often than men, because we're more risk averse. We take risks more cautiously. We weigh things up a little bit better. We tend to think and then act, whereas guys will just jump straight in. And that's not necessarily a bad thing either. We need a mix, because otherwise we're going to be procrastinating and thinking and not moving forward. But it's with caution. So let's proceed with caution. And the other thing about real estate and about women is that there's a couple of things we need to be so aware of now. The first thing is that, depending on where you are in the world, up to 60% of marriages are failing. They're getting divorced. There's a huge statistic that says after divorce, a man's standard of living will improve by about 40%. A woman's will drop by about 75%. And the third statistic is that of all the elderly at the moment, 80% are living in poverty. Of those 80%, another 90% weren't living in poverty while their husbands were alive. So there's a really clear synergy between women not being in a partnership and being in poverty. And like you said, for years we've been told that this is the way it should be and this is the way families work. And you know, if that's the way your family works, I'm entirely okay with that. But you have to have the protection there just in case. Have the right insurances there, have your own wealth pots, have an understanding and a knowledge of what goes on in and out of your house. If you don't want to be the one to action it and do the direct debits or the orders, that's fine, that's no fun. But at least know it and understand it, so that if you know your marriage does come to an end, sadly, at least you're standing there as a strong, as a powerful woman saying, this hurts, you know, I am broken, but I will do this by myself and I can do it. So if for no other reason, do it so that you know you don't need that man. You might love him dearly and you never want him to go and you guys are happy and that's amazing, but you don't need him. You'll be fine. And that for me is probably why I do everything.
Well, that sounds like a pretty darn good reason to me. Because, I mean, there's so many of us who really, it helps to see women like you, like me, like others who are doing what they thought they could not, who are telling their stories and sharing things that they're saying, wow, that sounds very much like my story. You know, I resonate with that, and opens the door for us to trust and be able to move forward in our own authenticity and just power. And so I just want to say thank you so much, KEMI, for bringing this information to our audience today. And I know that you brought a little gift for everyone in attendance. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
For sure. So I knew and I know that most people look at real estate as the latest shiny thing, and they know there's a lot of people giving a lot of information. You don't really know where to turn. So I built Freedom Property Academy, and it's got an introduction to, I think, 3 or 4 different strategies. It's got more of an introduction to me. It's got modules on your wealth map that we've talked about, your wealth strategies, and it's all there completely for free. So you can go in there, start to learn, figure out if you resonate with me and you want to work with me, awesome. If not, you've got a great basis there to go and weigh the other information up against and see what fits with you and what works well. So if you go to www.kemi.gift, so KEMI, K-E-M for mother I.gift, you get free access to that membership site for life. And you can also get a copy of my book, The Power of Real Estate Investing.
Beautiful. I love that. And I am a member, and I encourage everyone here to join me as I'm joining KEMI to really get entrenched in the aspect of building greater wealth. You know, and I have to say, I'm someone who has set the plan in motion. I've got the vision, I've set the plan in motion, but it still depends on the action that you take. And it makes it so much more fun and easier when you're in community where these things are going on, these conversations are being had, and you have the support and can lend support to others who are in the group as well. So thank you, KEMI. That is absolutely amazing. And I know that, you know, you've got this new program coming up. Please tell everybody about that, because I want to be a part of that as well.
Yeah, so we have, for all the reasons we've talked about, I, over the last year, become more and more passionate about empowering women to go out there and to build their wealth. So I've created Women's Wealth Builder, and it's a membership site. Again, it's a lifetime membership site along with a coaching program. So every week you get a new module to have a look at, to take action on, to implement in some way. And it goes from understanding your credit score and rebuilding your credit score to how to use that to your advantage and lower your outgoings, through to different ways to invest, from real estate to business, how to raise investments, what people are looking for when you go out there to find people to invest in you. So it's a 12-week module. And every week we'll jump on a call, we have a group coaching call, and we just share. So we'll talk about everything that's come up that week. There's always some really emotional points. everyone has a thing, I tend to find. And sometimes it's that they've got a bad credit score and they just didn't know they can improve it. So they're really emotional that they can. Sometimes there's like a spark when they realize that actually people will invest with them. So it can be a really emotional call. Everyone is sharing their experiences, helping each other. And I'm, of course, there and sharing everything I know. But the real power is from the other women and from the community. So that's a program that I'm incredibly proud of and excited by.
Well, I'm incredibly proud of you and excited by the work that you are doing. I think that you're an amazing inspiration for women, young and old, all over the globe. And I am so grateful to have connected and be in community with you. And to our audience, thank you for joining us today. I highly recommend jumping into this because you're going to just get into the flow. You know, I've been so stepping in the flow of money, of wealth, of confidence, of leadership. What we've been talking about today, step into the flow of the leadership that you've been called to walk in and to bring to the world. And in doing that, we want you to come back and join us back here in the zone next week. Every Thursday, 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern, right here in the BIZ Info Zone show. I want to give a huge shout out to my dear friend Roland Takaoka, who did this amazing lower third for me. And I am just so grateful for everyone who has shown up to contribute to my life, my work, allow me to contribute to theirs, and to just bring more brilliance to the world. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, KEMI EGAN, for being our guest today. I am so grateful that you're here.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. And to our audience, if you're interested in jumping in quickly to the after show, I'm posting the link right now. Say hello to KEMI and find out what the weather's like out there in the UK. And so with that said, once again, thanks for joining us on the BIZ Info Zone show today. You've been in the zone, and we'll look forward to seeing you again right here next week. Bye for now.